You're watching Northern Crimes.
The Oregon coast is a place of distinct beauty, where rocky shores meet pristine beaches. In the summer, it's a haven, drawing Oregonians seeking refuge from the inland heat. But when autumn arrives, the coast transforms. Massive waves crash onto the shores, thick fog cloaks the landscape, and torrents of rain lash the coast. This wild and untamed place hides dark secrets, veiled within the mysterious fog. And on a cold January night in 1995, two teenage girls, Jennifer Esson and Kara Leas, left a friend's house after a night of watching movies. They decided to walk home along Highway 101, the coastal road that threads its way through this magnificent yet treacherous landscape. But they never made it. Their bodies were found weeks later, covered with brush, in a secluded wooded area near Moolac Beach. They'd been strangled. Unfortunately, this was not an isolated incident. For nearly 3 decades, the Oregon coast has been haunted by a series of eerily similar unsolved murders, leaving families and investigators searching for answers. This is Northern Crimes. In May 1992, 19-year-old Sheila Swanson and 17-year-old Melissa Sanders went camping with the Sanders family at Beverly Beach State Park. Restless and seeking change, they decided to head back to Sweet Home, Oregon. They were last seen around 11 p.m. using a payphone near the campground, trying to contact someone for a ride. When the girls didn't return, their families grew worried and contacted the authorities. Initial search efforts focused on the campground and surrounding areas, but there was no trace of Sheila or Melissa. Flyers were distributed, and pleas for information were made through local media, but the case quickly grew cold as no leads surfaced. 5 months later, on October 13, 1992, 2 sets of skeletal remains were discovered near Highway 20, east of Newport. Loggers working in the isolated, wooded area stumbled upon the remains and immediately notified the authorities. The remains were identified as Sheila and Melissa. The medical examiner couldn't determine the exact cause of death, but confirmed they had met with foul play. The discovery of their bodies brought attention to a series of unsolved mysteries along the Oregon coast. Despite the grim finding, the investigation faced significant challenges. The remote location and the time elapsed since their disappearance meant that crucial evidence had likely been lost. Detectives interviewed friends, family, and anyone who'd been in the area during the time of the girls' disappearance, but no solid suspects emerged. One point of interest was the payphone the girls had used. Investigators tried to trace the calls made from the phone, hoping to uncover who the girls had contacted or if anyone had responded to their call for a ride. Unfortunately, the records were inconclusive, providing no clear direction for the investigation. As weeks turned into months, the lack of witnesses and physical evidence caused the case to go cold. The community was left in shock and fear as the idea of a possible killer lurking in their midst began to take hold. Unfortunately, this wasn't the first time something like this had happened in the Newport area. In March 1984, 17-year-old Kelly Disney disappeared after an argument with her boyfriend, Robert Ellis. The couple had a tumultuous relationship, and on the night of March 8th, a party at their apartment led to a heated argument. Around 12:30 a.m. on March 9th, Kelly left the apartment determined to cool off by walking along Highway 20. Despite the cold, drizzly night, Kelly was seen by multiple witnesses. Ellis, concerned for her safety, found her standing on Highway 20 but couldn't persuade her to get back into his car. He left, and 2 men later offered her a ride, which she refused. A sheriff's deputy also found Kelly near Southeast Moore Drive, but she declined help, saying she was heading to a friend's house. This was the last confirmed sighting of Kelly Disney. In the days following her disappearance, Kelly's family and friends organized frantic searches. The authorities, initially treating her as a runaway, conducted their own investigations but found no trace of her. Unfortunately, the case quickly became mired in confusion and miscommunication between the Newport Police Department and the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. 10 years later, on July 25, 1994, a man walked into the Newport Police Department carrying a skull he'd found near the Big Creek Reservoir. The skull was wrapped in carpet, and dental records confirmed it belonged to Kelly Disney. The discovery reignited the investigation, bringing both hope and despair to Kelly's family. While they finally had confirmation of her death, the circumstances remained a mystery. Investigators focused on Robert Ellis, Kelly's boyfriend, due to their volatile relationship. Despite extensive questioning and scrutiny, no conclusive evidence linked Ellis to the crime. Additionally, the unusual circumstances of the skull's discovery, placed in a location known for parties a decade after her disappearance, added to the perplexity. Witnesses who'd been in the area shortly before the skull was found denied seeing it, suggesting it had been placed there deliberately. The renewed investigation also explored other potential suspects and scenarios. The forensic examination of the skull revealed head injuries, but the cause of death remained undetermined. Despite these efforts, the case of Kelly Disney went cold once again, leaving her family and the community in limbo. On January 27, 1995, 15-year-old Jennifer Esson and 16-year-old Kara Leas spent the evening at a friend's house in Newport, Oregon. After a night of movies and fun, they decided to walk home along Highway 101 around 1 a.m. instead of calling Jennifer's older brother for a ride. The following morning, their families reported them missing, and a frantic search began. Despite the efforts of volunteers and police, no immediate clues were found. Weeks later, on February 13, 1995, loggers working near Moolock Beach discovered their bodies covered with brush. Both girls had been strangled. The community was devastated. The brutal murders of 2 young girls shocked everyone. Vigils were held, and the families pleaded for information. Detectives interviewed friends, family, and anyone who'd seen the girls that night. Crime scene photos revealed one of the first clues, a girl's shoe found near the bodies. The investigators considered the possibility of a serial killer, given the similarities to the other unsolved cases in the area. The manner of their deaths and the locations where their bodies were found resembled the 1992 murders of Sheila Swanson and Melissa Sanders. However, despite their efforts, no solid leads or suspects emerged. Bobby Jack Fowler, a drifter with a history of violent crimes, emerged as a potential suspect in the Oregon Coast murders. Fowler's criminal record spanned several states and included numerous violent offenses, including assault. In 1995, Fowler was arrested in Newport after a woman fell from a balcony, escaping his violent assault. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison. Fowler was later linked to several murders in Canada through DNA evidence, particularly in British Columbia, where he was connected to the deaths of young women along the Highway of Tears. His transient lifestyle and criminal history made him a compelling suspect for the Oregon Coast murders. However, despite the initial suspicion and investigation, no conclusive evidence was found to link Fowler to any of the murdered women in the area. John Arthur Ackroyd, a state highway worker, was another significant suspect, particularly in the cases of Sheila Swanson and Melissa Sanders. Ackroyd had a dark and violent history, including the 1978 murder of Kay Turner near Camp Sherman, Oregon. Ackroyd was also the prime suspect in the disappearance of his stepdaughter, Rashonda Pickle, whose body was never found. Ackroyd's connection to Highway 20, where Sheila Swanson and Melissa Sanders were last seen and later found, was particularly troubling. He lived and worked along this route, and his familiarity with the area gave him ample opportunity to commit such crimes. Witnesses reported seeing Ackroyd in a suspicious state shortly after the girls disappeared, adding to the circumstantial evidence against him. Despite these suspicions, Ackroyd was never charged with the murders before his death in prison in 2016. Robert Ellis, Kelly Disney's boyfriend at the time of her disappearance, was initially considered a suspect due to their tumultuous relationship and the argument they had the night she vanished. Ellis was one of the last people to see Kelly alive, and his refusal to cooperate with investigators raised suspicion. However, despite extensive questioning and scrutiny, no conclusive evidence ever linked Ellis to Kelly's murder. His behavior and the circumstances of their relationship made him a person of interest, but he was never formally charged. The possibility of a local perpetrator or a transient killer remains a theory. The remote locations where the bodies were found suggest someone with knowledge of the area could be involved. The lack of witnesses and physical evidence has made it challenging to identify a clear suspect. Over the years, various tips and leads have been investigated, but none have led to a definitive conclusion. Some speculate that the murders could be the work of multiple individuals rather than a single serial killer. The similarities in the cases, young girls walking alone or in pairs, disappearing along coastal highways, and their bodies being found in secluded, wooded areas, point to a possible connection. However, without concrete evidence, these remain theories. In the mid-2000s, the Newport Police Department re-examined these unsolved cases, spurred by advancements in DNA technology and new investigative techniques. Detective Ron Benson and Linda Snow, driven by a desire to bring closure to the families, took a fresh look at the evidence. The passage of time and lack of concrete evidence posed significant challenges, but their determination fueled the renewed investigation. Despite receiving over 300 tips, the investigation struggled to gain traction. Each tip was meticulously examined, but none provided the definitive breakthrough needed to solve the cases. Public appeals and media coverage played a crucial role in generating new leads. Angela Dodds, Kelly Disney's sister, spearheaded a poster and sign campaign in Lincoln County to keep her sister's memory alive and draw attention to the case. Her efforts, along with those of other families, brought renewed focus and community support. In 2009, Lincoln County District Attorney Rob Bovitt reactivated the Major Crimes Team to re-examine the unsolved homicides. New detectives, equipped with advanced DNA technology and national criminal databases, began reviewing evidence and re-interviewing witnesses. Bovitt emphasized the importance of modern forensic methods and the potential for DNA evidence to uncover new leads. The collaboration between detectives like Ron Benson and Linda Snow and the unwavering determination of the victims' families underscores the ongoing pursuit of justice for these unsolved murders. While the cases of Sheila Swanson, Melissa Sanders, Kelly Disney, Jennifer Esson, and Kara Leas remain unresolved, the continued investigation and public involvement provide hope. The memory of these young lives, lost too soon, serves as a reminder of the importance of persistence and community support in seeking justice. The dark secrets of the Oregon coast may one day be brought to light, offering closure to the grieving families and the community.